Hello everyone, welcome back to Imperium. This is the 10th lecture of the DBMS course, and in today's lecture we will be learning the insert select query, the case function, the null functions, and the procedure. So first I have this database practice. I will now select the database. I will run this query to create the table customers. Then I will insert these values in the table. Now we have another table, suppliers. I will run this also, and I will insert the values in the table suppliers. So now, firstly, we have the insert into select function or the insert into select query. So what this does is this statement or this function copies the data from one table into another table. So another existing table. In this is my SQL. In the SQL there is the select into function. What select into function is does that it copies the data from a table to a new table, so it creates a new table. But in my SQL there is no select into function. That's why there is directly insert into select function. So you can see the query that insert into customers, then the standard, what are the elements or the column names of the table. We have customer name, city, and country. Then select supplier name, city, country from suppliers. So we are taking these three entities or these three columns from the suppliers table and inserting them into the customers table. So you can see that the supplier name will go into the customer names column, the city name will go into the city names column, and the country name in the country names column. So first, if you like check the select start from customer, that is the entries that are available in the customers table. There are only 5 entries. You can see them, that there is Alfred, then Anna, then Antonio, etc. Now if I run this query, these entries from the suppliers table should go into the customers table, and only these three elements should go in there. That is the name, city, and country. The etc. The address or the contact name or the postal code, that won't be copied. So if I run this and then again I run the select query, and you can see we have exotic liquids from here. We have New Orleans, we have Grandma Kelly's Homestead. So you can see that only the customer name, the city, and the country has been updated in this customers table with the help of this query. You will say like, what about the customer ID? It is auto increment. So you can see that in the customers table, the customer ID, I have kept it auto increment. So it doesn't matter, you don't have to insert it, like you don't have to write it while typing the insert into query. So you can see that we only mentioned these three columns. So that's why the contact name, address, and postal code are showing null. Similarly, we have then now we have the same query, but we have included all the columns, that is customer name, contact name, address, city, postal code, country. Now if we just select it, run, and then again select country, we can see now there are new, these are the from the 13, these are the new inputs, that is the exotic liquid. We have contact name, then address, then city, then postal code, then country. First we had only the three inputs because we stated that in the query. You stated here like select. When you say select, it means you only select these columns that are stated here. So we only selected three columns. In this we selected all the columns. That is it. If you wonder if like this part of the code like does any effects or does it affect the code in any way, it does not. It just shows like what are the column names are in the tables customer. That is it. It's nothing like it does not affect it in any way. If you remove it, it won't affect the code. Then this has a condition. This last query for insert into select query has condition that we are again taking the three columns only, the supplier name, city and country from suppliers, where the country is USA. So we have added a condition here that we don't want all the inputs, we only want the ones that have the country USA. So after running it and then checking the customers table again, we can see only the USA ones have been added. Those are the two USA parts, that is New Orleans and Grandma Kelly's home state. Now next is case. The case function or the case query, you can say that it is used like a switch case. Like you can relate it to the C++ other languages. We have switch case in that. So in C, what we do is we just like taken firstly we derive a variable. Let's say like we take character ch, and then we give like inputs, print this or enter this scanf, all that, and then we go switch brackets, circular brackets ch, and then curly brackets to start it, and then we just type case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, all that. So whatever the cases are, this is like we do in C language, but in this database MySQL, it has another syntax. Basically what it does is it has multiple conditions. So like it's like an or statement, multiple or statement. So when you select like select star from customers where this or this or this, instead of typing the or again and again, you can just use the case function. So what it does is it goes, I have taken this table, then this database again. Now we have order details table, and I have multiple inputs in it. So here you can see the query is select order id, quantity, then case. So what case function does is it is like a efficient way of using the or operator. So it will first check if quantity, the when means if quantity is greater than 30, then you should print this output. If quantity is equal to 30, then you should print this output. So you can write this query similarly like select order id, quantity, then where quantity is greater than 30, or quantity is equal to 30, or quantity is less than 30. So instead of writing the or operator, it just like elongates the query and it makes it confusing. So if you have any error in between, it is hard to find. But in the case function, you have in single line, each query has a single line. So we can just use the case function, and then the end as is important, like it is the part of the syntax. So end as, what end as does is this function, when we write then and give any output, we have to give a column name to it, because it will create a new column for that like answer that you have stated here or fixed here for a particular outcome to be entered in. So for that we are creating a call quantity text as a new column in the orders table only. So if I do select order id, quantity, case. So first case is when quantity is greater than 30, you should give the quantity is greater than 30. If it is equal to 30, then quantity is 30. Else, the else statement is the quantity is under 30. So like if these don't, if these two conditions don't work or they are not applicable, That means if the quantity is not greater than 30 or equal to 30, the two conditions have been null and void. And else is like the default function from the switch. Again, in the C language, there is this case 1, case 2, and then at the last there is default function. In default, you can just write not a valid answer, not a valid option, or etc. Like that. In this, we have the else. You can also write other questions, like it's not only used for the greater than less than functions, it is also used for another things. So like, let's say if I consider like select star, from this I use the like operator and I printed like a star. So I want a name starting from a or ending from a, and then I put conditions here, like when like star a, print this, the name starts from a. If a star name starts ends with a or starts with a, like that. Case function has many uses. Now I'll just run this, and you can see for each order id and quantity, these two tables, there is another new column that is created, like we created it here in the end as. So quantity text, we get the answer, like these answers for the each entry. So if it's less than 20, the quantity answer is 30. If it's greater than 30, the quantity is greater than 30. And if it's 30, then the quantity is equal to 30. So that was the case operator, the case function. Now we have the null function. So what is a null function? Like null functions are those, like when I showed you here prior here, so you can see these are the null inputs. It is used for like these types of inputs. The null function is used for these types of inputs. So now if I go here, just run the database query, then now I have already created these tables. So now I can just do there are four functions. Firstly, you can see if null, collex, is null, and nvl. So these are the functions. I have taken all of the functions, like these consist of SQL functions also, because in the MySQL functions there is only if null and collex. So for MySQL there are only these two functions. These two are additional ones for the SQL prompt. So now if and they work very similarly. So what we have done is I have taken a table, I have inserted three values, I have put one units order null in it, and what this query says is it wants product name and unit price into stock, that is unit stock. And if the units order is null, then what it will do is it will select units order, that is the value, plus 0. So comma means plus, it will take plus 0. So when it is not null, what the answer would be, product name unit price into unit stock. That is, for let's say for this entry, we have first unit price is 10.45 or 10.45. It will be multiplied by the addition of units in stock and units on order. So that is 10.45 into 31. That will be the output. But when we go here, it cannot do that because there is no entry in this box. The null means there is no entry. So what it will do is, that is unit price is 32.56, will multiply with the addition of units in stock and units on order. So 23 plus null is not a thing. It cannot solve that operation because it is not a integer number, or it is not a mathematical number. That's why we did is, if null, the units on order will be turned into 0. So instead of the null, in the operation, when the like database or the terminal is doing the operation, it will count the null as 0. So what the equation would become is 32.56 multiplied by 23 plus 0. Instead of null, it will become 0. So if you run the query, you can see that there is the output of the multiplication of what we have given here, that unit price into the addition of unit in stocks and units on order. That is the output. Similar is the coalesce, is null and will, they will all give the same output. They will all give the same output if you just see similar output. See in this. Okay, so you can see that the is null and NVL are not working because they are a part of SQL functions and not the MySQL functions. So you can just add a note here that they are part of SQL functions and not MySQL functions. Now we have the stored procedure. So, like, what is the use of stored procedure and why was it made? Like, why does it have so much gravitas in the DBMS language? So, like, what a stored procedure is, like, it is a prepared SQL code. That means we have a code like this code. If we have create or insert or let's say select code, we can create a procedure and we can use that code again and again. You mean like you can say we can also use this code again and again. We just have to select and run it. That is true, but this is for the MySQL workbench. The people who do codes in terminals, they have it hectic. They can like go up and they can like rerun the code, but stored procedure makes it easy because if you just check here, this is my database, this is the stored procedure tag. Now these are already created. If I just go here on the wrench icon, I can see the procedure. So this query that I have created, like it's a single line query, but what I can do is when I go here, I have to just write this like call and the procedure function name. So I just have to call and then get merit student. I can run it again and again. I just have to call this function. So it is like a procedure is like a function in another languages. That is the like most useful part of the DBMS. So if we have to like if you have to create a new procedure in SQL, what you have to do is go in the database you are using, just right click on the stored procedure, then create stored procedure. Here you will see that there is a difference in the definer or etc. Those are the limiters, delimiters. They put it automatically. What you have to do is just let's say I just take this same code, I'll copy it, print it here. I just have to give a name. They say new procedure, you can give another name. So instead of this, I will just give example and then I can just apply. You can see the button apply. I'll just click on apply. Now you will see that use practice, that means it is using the database practice. Then there is drop procedure if exist, means if there is a procedure that is named example, it will drop that and rewrite it and create this procedure, that is new procedure. Then we have the delimiter. We are again using the database practice, that means calling it. Then we create the procedure begin. This is the code we have given, this code. then end, and the delimiter also ends, and we just give apply. It will finish the process, and now we have a new procedure example. If it doesn't come right away, you can just go here and just type refresh all. Then it will refresh and show the new created procedure. And as you know, if you type on the wrench, you can see here, this is the use of procedure. I highly recommend using procedures in most of your codes. Like, even if for insert query, you can use procedure. Even for create table, you can use procedure. And mainly procedures are used in like the more, like, the vast data set. Let's say we have to enter a whole database of the employees. So we have the insert query, we have select query, we have conditions where we want like these department people should be listed under this thing, etc., etc. The procedure is one of the most important topics in SQL, so just remember that and note that. So I highly recommend practicing typing or practicing your procedure function. So you just take as many as example codes and just try to connect them with a procedure with yourself. So that was it for today's lecture. If you have any query, you can type that in the comment section. We will reply to them as soon as possible. And if you have any suggestions, we will also go through them. If we find them helpful, we will make those changes as well. Thank you.